we had no idea this was coming. You know, I was out running when in my usual exercise routine when the head of he's called the head of security. He came and said, "Look, I've got a word with you." He said, "Pack your stuff. You've got an hour to move." And I said, "Well, what's going on?" He said, "You're leaving." I said, "What do you mean we're leaving?" He said, "You're going." You know, I said, we're going to another prison." He said, no, you're going home. The embassy comes in an hour. Frankly, I didn't believe it. It just seemed a little bit too sudden, too unreal to be true. You know, we've been through a lot of false starts before. We've had a lot of moments where we thought things were going to go our way, when we thought our release would be imminent, and then to have it done in such an unceremonious kind of way was a little bit surprising, and took us to the airport and put us on a plane to Cyprus, and that was the end of it.
And did they give you time to say goodbye to your colleagues who are still there?
Yeah, I did have time. Not much time, but there was time. We'd discussed this possibility that one of us would be released before the others, and I was, you know, it was. They were all very happy for me, obviously, and I'm pretty sure they wouldn't say if they weren't. But you know, I also know, and when we talked about it, I realised that if I was in their position, if one of them had come to me and said, "Look, I'm being told to go," I would have been absolutely overjoyed at that, because one of us would have been free, and it would have meant that there's a pretty good chance that the others would have followed. Now, obviously, I feel quite concerned. You know, it's tough leaving them behind, and that there's a real part of me which feels maybe I should have dug my heels in out of solidarity, but you know, it would have been the wrong choice.
Was there any explanation given as to
No.
what had triggered it?
No, I don't know what was involved in the negotiations, the discussions. I don't know. All I was told is it's time to go. That's it.
And at what point did it sink in?
I think when we got out at the airport, I was given an armed escort all the way to the airport, although it wasn't quite the way that these things usually work. And then at the airport they said, "Goodbye, you're on your own." You know, shook my hand. There was some embassy officials, Australian embassy officials, who were with us, who took me from there, and a couple of Ministry of Information officials, and that was it. And then when they left, I kind of thought, maybe this really is happening. But it wasn't until we were on the ground in Cyprus that we knew, really, I was free. You know, that we were outside of Egypt's judicial reach.
And where do things stand now with your colleagues, as far as you know?
I'm afraid I don't know very much at all. You know, there's a lot of legal discussions and diplomatic discussions. A lot of them I'm not a party to. Most of those discussions that were involved, that were involved with my release are ongoing, and a lot of the people that were involved with my release are still involved with the others. So obviously, because I don't know what happened with mine, I'm not really up to speed with the others. But you know, we are hopeful that we'll see something pretty positive pretty soon.
But although you're out, it's a sensitive process, isn't it? So the stuff you can't talk about now because you don't want to upset somebody and somehow mess it up.
This has been both sensitive and complicated at all sorts of levels, and I understand the reasons for that. I mean, anyone who opens up the newspaper and sees the kind of difficulties that Egypt's having would understand that this is not a straightforward process. So, you know, I know that that a lot of people are doing their best to help these guys get out. You know, I just like to see it as soon as possible.
And what do you think the best thing you can do to help that is?
Just let me answer, Andrew. Let me answer this way. I'm grateful to be out. I'd like to do all that I can to support the others in the process, but at the moment I don't know how that would be.
And physically, tell me what you can about the experience of being confined in prison for 400 days.
Prison is prison. I mean, it's always going to be pretty confronting. You know, being in a box in very, very limited conditions is always tough at the best of times. We didn't really know how things were going to play out, and so we had that kind of additional problem of an open-ended process that made it pretty difficult. we made a very conscious effort to look after ourselves, you know, physically, intellectually, spiritually. I tried very hard to keep fit. You know, we set up a fitness program for ourselves. I'm pretty lousy.
Good.
Thanks very much. I'm actually feeling pretty good. I mean, you know, we did the sorts of things that everyone promises they're going to do every New Year's Eve, but we kind of stuck it out because we knew that actually our lives depended on it, our sanity depended on it. And so I managed to get hold of a fitness program. We managed to find some space, some pretty limited space to jog. And, you know, I think I'm probably in far better shape now than I was when I went in. I also started a master's degree in international relations. And that was pretty tough, but again, what it did was that it forced a discipline. It forced you to take on a kind of routine, a regime within the prison day. The prison day is always pretty open. I mean, you know, you get up, you do what you do, and then you go to bed. There's no one to restrict or control your day, and so you need something to give that structure, and that's what the study did. And I also spent quite a bit of time meditating just to try and keep my mind relaxed and focused and under control.
But are you a different person? Have you learnt
about yourself? Yeah, of course. You can't go through that kind of experience and come out the other end the same person that you went in. The question is whether you come out better or worse off for it. Now, I guess we'll find out in the coming weeks and months whether any damage has been done. But to be honest with you, I've learned a lot about myself that I never really knew before, and the sorts of things that you only find out when you're really pushed and tested. Such as? Well, that I can put up with a lot more than I ever realised. That I'm probably tougher. In fact, I think most people are tougher than they give themselves credit for. I reckon, given this experience and given what I saw, I realised that I was much more capable than I ever imagined. But I also think most people are. It's just that most people haven't had the good fortune.
And what was the lowest moment for you?
When we were sentenced to 7 years. That's pretty tough.
And presumably, throughout that time, I mean, you've touched on it, the most difficult thing must have been knowing that you had no idea when this could end. It could be 7 years, it could be tomorrow. That sense of uncertainty must have been difficult.
Yeah, but we worked to support each other. We worked very hard to not lift each other up artificially, because I think there's a lot of times when you want to talk someone up just for the sake of it because you don't want them to feel down. We recognised that we needed to give each other space, but we also recognised that we each have our ups and our downs, and we learned very, very well how to look after each other. And I think that was an important part of the whole process. And you know, I owe my survival, as it were, the fact that I've been able to make it through this far, to those guys as much to myself.
And were you together the whole time?
A lot of it. Mohammed Fahmy was moved to a hospital about 5 months ago, but Baher was with me throughout. And that was great, that was good.
You must be very close to them now.
Yeah, you know, you don't spend 400 days in a prison cell without learning a little bit about these guys and appreciating them. And so, yeah, you develop bonds that you just couldn't under other circumstances.
So, tell me about last night. Tell me about, you went to Cyprus.
Yeah.
You took a day or two off.
Yeah. Cyprus, look, getting out to Cyprus was the physical freedom. I was physically free, but we'd never had that moment where I was able to really celebrate the freedom. And it really wasn't until I walked through that door and saw this vast throng, this massive, unimaginable gaggle of this massive of cameras and lights and photographers and people and crowds all cheering and so on, it just blew my mind. And that was the moment that I've been really craving. That was the moment when I really kind of had my emotional freedom. It was just extraordinary. I knew that obviously this was getting some attention, but I had no idea whatsoever that that it was this big. The people were reacting to it as massively as they have done.
And what did your parents say?
Oh, when I saw them, Mum smacked me over the ear and told me not to do it again, and gave me a huge hug, you know. I mean, I've seen them throughout, or at least through the period since our conviction. But this was really the first time when the pressure had really been off, you know, when we could really celebrate what really felt like a major breakthrough, a major victory. And this has really brought together the family in a way that I just never imagined possible. I mean, the family has just been absolutely extraordinary. My brothers, my parents, my sisters-in-law, all of them, the way that they've spoken and presented themselves, the way that they've fought for me, the way that they've gone out on a limb for me was just unbelievable, and it's really made me appreciate my family in amazing ways.
So your mum says, don't do it again, don't let us go through that again. What are you going to do?
Well, look, as my mum said in the news conference, she also knows better than to tell me not to back off on something that is really important to me. Andrew, I don't know what I'm going to do from here. There's an awful lot of options open to me. I find it hard to imagine not going back to my job as a correspondent. I still love it. I still love doing it. I want to do more of it. I think it's valuable. I think it's a worthwhile job, and I'd like to get back on the horse at some point. But there's a lot to consider between now and then. Things might change, but at the moment, that's what I'm thinking of.
Back to Africa?
Back to Africa? Where's my mum? Possibly. Very possibly. I just don't know.
You're going to take some time off? I'm
going to take some time off and think, consider my options, spend time with the family, as a politician say. Yeah. But I'm looking forward to, look, this whole experience has opened up a lot of options. Professionally, there are things that could happen. Obviously, everyone keeps talking about the book. I'm not giving away any secrets when I say that that's a real prospect. I haven't spoken to anyone formally about that, but apparently there are a few emails, a few people that I need to have a chat to. I'd like to do something more substantial on this whole experience as a journalist, as a reporter, and unpick a lot of the stuff that went on in the background, to make sense of it. Because as we've just been talking about, there was so much diplomatically and politically and legally that happened that I was completely unaware of. So while I was at the very middle of it, it was like being in the eye of the hurricane. Everything was swirling around us, and here we are stuck in this dead calm in the middle of it, very much aware of the turmoil and the energy that was being expended, but not really being connected to it. And so I'm really excited. I'm really looking forward to talking to people, to using my old craft skills to really investigate and understand and make sense of all of that.